provide you with the lowest per GB rates, night or day. SLT 4G, driving you ever forward.
Making headlines first at 9. Slippery slope. Diverging views on the pathetic plight of the Sri Lankan rupee. Man versus elephant. Train hits a herd killing 3 elephants. One was pregnant. Dispelling myth. The World Patriotic Lankan Forum details the inception of separatism in Sri Lanka. Constitutional reforms. The opposition leader insists that devolution of power won't threaten national security. Television's biggest night. The Emmy Awards throws up surprises during its 70th anniversary. Good evening, bringing you news from across Sri Lanka and around the world on Sri Lanka's news channel, Other Derana 24/7, first at 9 tonight. I'm Indiva Yamuatta. We begin with your top local stories. Leader of the opposition, R. Sambandan, claims that devolution of power will not pose a threat to the country's national security. The ITAC parliamentarian, along with the Tamil National Alliance, is seeking devolution of power to the provincial councils, especially in the north and east, through a constitutional reform. Speaking to media following an event held in Colombo last evening, the opposition leader also said that he does not view the delay in the constitutional reform process as deliberate.
The 112th birth anniversary of late President J.R. Jayawardena was held at the J.R. Jayawardena Centre in Colombo yesterday with the participation of a number of politicians, intellectuals and civilians.
The J.R. Jayawardena was a very competent, very capable leader. He did many things during his presidency and when he was in power. Unfortunately, he did not bring about peace in the country. I think in regard to that, if he had succeeded in bringing about peace in the country, he could have achieved much more for the country.
There are delays, but I don't see them as deliberate, and I think the government isn't responsible for it because some factions try to delay it. It should proceed without any delays. There's no such risk to the national security. The new constitution is brought to devolve power in the country. Nothing will happen to the national security when power is devolved.
Executive Committee member of the World Patriotic Lankan Forum, Professor Channa Jayasumana, today addressed the 39th session of the United Nations Human Rights Council. He impressed upon the international community that the separatist movement within Sri Lanka was not the result of any injustices inflicted upon the Tamil community. Meanwhile, members of the Tamil diaspora held protests at the UNHRC headquarters yesterday, waving LTT flags in support of the terrorist group.
The 39th session of the United Nations Human Rights Council is currently underway in Geneva. LTTE supporters of the Tamil diaspora gathered at the UNHRC headquarters yesterday to engage in a protest. Protesters were seen holding flags of the LTTE and photos of prominent members of the terrorist organization, including its late leader Prabhakaran. Meanwhile, addressing the 39th session of the UNHRC, the Executive Committee member of the World Patriotic Lankan Forum, Professor Channa Jayasumana, expressed views on the inception of the controversial concept of a separate land for the Tamil community.
Racism in Sri Lanka has led to violation of human rights in all Sri Lankans. Scholars including Professor Karthikesu Indrapala has pointed out that there were no permanent Tamil settlements in Sri Lanka before 13th century. When the Portuguese arrived in Sri Lanka, the Sinhalese people were the majority in the Jaffna Peninsula as well as rest of the country. The Dutch, who occupied the coastal areas of the country around 1650, brought the Vellala Tamils from present Tamil Nadu for their tobacco plantation in Jaffna. The English who occupied the country in 1850 gave preferences to the Vellara Tamils. In 1833, when the Legislative Assembly was established, the British government appointed one Sinhala and one Tamil-speaking person to represent the communities without any semblance to democracy, ignoring that the Sinhalese constitute 75% of the population with a history of more than 2,000 years and Tamil-speaking people who constitute around 10% of the population with a history not going back to more than 200 years. The Tamil Vellara leaders aspired to be the leaders of the country under the auspices of the British. In 1931, the British introduced universal franchise and the Vellara leaders found that they could not become the leaders of Sri Lanka. Then they wanted to become the rulers of the northern and eastern province. This was the beginning of the separatist movement. Thus the Tamil separatist movement sprang up not because of any injustice to the Tamil-speaking people, but due to the fact that the Vellara Tamils could not become the leaders of the entire country. In 2009, the entire Tamil racist movement was defeated and there is nothing to talk further as the military solution given in Nandikadal is nothing but a political solution. Studying genuine history shows there is no ethnic problem in Sri Lanka.
Meanwhile, Rear Admiral Sarath Veerasekara expressed views to media yesterday ahead of his departure to Geneva tonight to address the 39th session of the UNHRC.
The president is scheduled to go to New York in a while and he will also be presenting some proposals. We have never committed war crimes to worry about watering down any allegations or solving matters diplomatically. The president should point out that Resolution 30/1 was co-sponsored without his or cabinet's approval.
President Maithripala Sirisena is of the view that exporters should be exempt from tax as the exports sector is a key component in strengthening the country's economy. The head of state expressed his thoughts on the subject while addressing the Presidential Export Awards ceremony held at the BMICH this afternoon.
Presidential Export Awards ceremony was held at the BMICH in Colombo under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena this afternoon. A total of 59 awards, consisting 11 overall awards and 48 sectoral awards, were presented during the ceremony.
Since 2015, there's some progress in exports. We all know that it is the export sector that strengthens the economy of the country. We know that through the economic policies of a country, the export sector can be strengthened as well as weakened. To strengthen exporters, they should be completely exempt from taxes. However, some economic theories have become obstacles in this regard. Therefore, I believe that the obstacles for the exporters for the country should be removed and should improve the production of goods that suit international markets.
Sri Lanka's elephant population is already under threat for various reasons, with the numbers of the majestic animals dwindling each year. Today, the population was left 3 elephants lighter as a train accident between Habarana and Palugaswewa stations claimed their lives. According to the Wildlife Conservation Department, the number of elephants and tuskers killed so far this year, owing to various causes, stands at a staggering 160.
A railway petroleum transport service plying from Colombo to Batticaloa collided with 3 elephants near the 127-kilometre post between Habarana and Palugaswewa at around 4:30 this morning. The collision proved to be fatal for the elephants and dies on the spot. They encountered the tragedy while making their way towards the Tumikulama Reserve from the Hurulu Eco Park. All the 3 animals were cow elephants, with one being pregnant. Her baby was born following the accident, but it did not survive. Local residents claimed that the train was travelling at high speed, despite signs being put up in the locality alerting that the area is frequented by elephants and is used for crossing. In the meantime, our cameras captured some of the residents taking away body parts of the dead elephants. The train involved in the accident was transporting fuel with 8 tanks and it toppled over after being derailed. With the payload leaking away into the environment from 2 tanks, residents were seen collecting fuel from the overturned tanks. Representatives of the Sri Lanka Petroleum Corporation arrived at the scene and collected fuel from the tanks, and the rest of the tanks which were not toppled over were transported to the Palugaswewa station. In the meantime, Indian Union Cabinet Minister for Women and Child Development, Maneka Sanjay Gandhi, sending a letter to President Maithripala Sirisena, requests the release of the elephant named Bandula at National Zoological Gardens in Devala. The minister, who is also an animal rights activist, says that the animal had been tied 67 years and calls for it to be released to the Vidyagama Safari Park. However, when the other Derana crew went to the Devala Zoological Gardens and questioned its assistant director Rohitabe Singha about the matter, he said that the elephant Bandula is a bull elephant and that it is quarantined for a certain period of the year owing to must. He added that the animal would not be in the healthy condition which it is at present if it wasn't for the love and care of Bandula's handlers.
Well, this story is in fact currently trending on our YouTube page. You can recap this story by logging on to the Other Derana YouTube page. Also read the full story on www.otherderana.lk. Well, special security has now been deployed at the house of Namal Kumara in Tulhiria. He is the director of the operations unit at the organization, the Anti-Corruption Force. He came forward recently, filing a complaint at the CID regarding an assassination plot on President Maithripala Sirisena and the former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Following his statement at the Criminal Investigations Department last night, Director of Operations of the Anti-Corruption Force, Namal Kumara, was also escorted to his residence under police protection.
Director of Operations of the Anti-Corruption Unit, Namal Kumara, recently revealed an alleged plot to assassinate President Maithripala Sirisena and former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The Criminal Investigation Department recorded a second statement from him on the allegation yesterday, which lasted around 10 hours. Namal Kumara was given special police security all the way to his residence in Tulhiria upon the CID's instructions. Officers attached to the police station of Arkapola and Kegor were deployed to provide security for his house.
They asked me as to how did we work on cases outside the purview of the CID. For example, information about assassination attempts on Prasanna Alvis from the Crime Investigation Division of Colombo and so on.
Meanwhile, several politicians also expressed views on the latest development on the alleged assassination conspiracy.
It's been 72 hours since this assassination plot was revealed, but what had happened so far? Was the DIG questioned? A question arises as to whether we want to know the truth or there is fear over what the truth might reveal. So what is the force that is behind this? The DIG has now been transferred to the IT division. That could be where they investigate the voice recordings. The government even failed to suspend the DIG because it is afraid of Nalaka de Silva. The government was behind the incident in Diganu in March this year. It was DIG Nalaka de Silva who covered up the truth and put the blame on another group. That's a very serious allegation. It was the UNP which appointed the president, so we would even sacrifice our own lives to protect him. My view is that he should be arrested. He should at least be suspended before the investigations commenced.
Meanwhile, the joint opposition pointed out in Parliament today that allowing DIG Nalaka de Silva remain in police service will have uncalled influences on the investigation of the assassination plot of President and former Defence Secretary.
We need to speculate as to whether the alleged assassinations of prominent members are being organised by the police along with the underworld. If the president is killed, the Prime Minister will look after everything. Is this an attempt at political upheaval? I don't know whether you have any plans to kidnap the officers who complained about this. If the Speaker of the country does not understand the seriousness of this issue, what is the state of this Parliament? Namal Kumara has revealed several pressing issues. He says that he acted under the instructions of the DIG to conduct anti-Muslim riots in Digana recently. He also talks of certifications given by the DIG to underworld figures. Therefore, there are serious allegations against the DIG to be arrested. Namal even accuses the current IGP. If the DIG still has power to influence the investigations, how can we expect an unbiased outcome? We will conduct preliminary investigations and report to the police commission, and necessary action will be taken.
Wait now. Just calm down.
They're saying that they will ensure the protection of the president. But what about the security of former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa? This plot was planned by the DIG of the Terror Investigation Division with the help of the underworld. And it is the IGP who connects the police and the underworld. Any of the state media institutions refrain from reporting this. This is the most serious allegation levelled at the police in its 152-year-old history. The president is the most important citizen of the country. All security forces ensure his security. Although Gotabaya is not a Sri Lankan citizen, we can provide his security if he requires it. A sniper rifle has gone missing from the Terror Investigation Unit last week. Will there be an investigation as to where it had gone? We will conduct an investigation into the matter without any issue if you make a written complaint. Before Namal Kumar filed a complaint with the CID, the IGP said that he finds this voice recording to be suspicious. How can he make such a comment before any investigations are conducted? Doesn't that prove where he stands? There is an attempt to make Namal leave the country, so please give him police security. I thank you all for showing so much interest in our president. Which one of you spoke against withdrawing his security when he contested the presidential election? Did you show this much interest then? Gotabaya Rajapaksa can request security if he feels he needs protection. This conversation started off with the president and ended with the IGP. President, Police Commission and all the other relevant parties have talked about this. Now we have to wait until the report is presented. The IGP was talking with me for over an hour at my office yesterday. We all, including myself, have the responsibility to protect any person's life if it is in danger, which is precisely why I called the IGP yesterday.
The Cabinet-appointed Cost of Living Committee has recommended to increase the price of a 12.5 kilogram LP gas cylinder by 195 rupees. In the meantime, the committee also recommended to reduce the price of milk powder by 25 rupees per kilogram. These decisions were arrived at during the Cost of Living Committee meeting held this evening. And we'll be back with your business news right after this short break. Do stay with us.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
Welcome back. The Sri Lankan rupee fell 0.5% today, plunging into a fresh all-time low of 166 rupees per dollar today, weighed down by higher dollar demand from importers amid reluctant greenback sales by exporters. Expressing views on the matter, the joint opposition said that the main reason of the rupee's depreciation is the increasing debt as Sri Lanka continues to borrow from foreign nations. The United National Party, however, is of the view that the depreciation of the rupee is not due to mismanagement of the economy, but rather due to the volatility of world markets at present.
The Sri Lankan rupee fell 0.5% and hit an all-time low of 166 rupees per dollar today. This comes in a backdrop in which the currency fell sharply the previous day, closing at 165 rupees to 165 rupees and 30 cents against the greenback, after opening at 160 rupees to 60 and 80 cents that day, amid continued liquidity injections by the central bank below the ceiling repo rate. The rupee weakened 2.4% this month and 7.7% so far this year. Meanwhile, in the world market, the dollar index gained briefly against a basket of major currencies but was last unchanged at 94.465. However, the latest tariff news sent home investors to the safety of US Treasuries, with 10-year yields coming off Monday's 4-month top of 3.0220% as bond price rose. They were last at 2.9922%. Expressing views on the depreciation of the rupee, the joint opposition says that rising debt levels is putting further pressure on the Sri Lankan rupee.
අග්‍රාමාත්‍යතුමා කියන පට්ටපල් අසත්‍ය.
The Prime Minister's depiction of the country's debt situation is a myth. He says that taxes have to be increased because exorbitant amounts of loans were obtained to construct the Hambantota port and the Matala airport. I wish to tell him that owing to the depreciation of the rupee, the national debt levels of the country has increased by 1,000 billion rupees before they completed 4 years in power. In fact, 9 projects undertaken by Mahinda Rajapaksa's government cost us 300 billion rupees. This is the mountain of debt the Prime Minister is talking about, which is absolutely false. If I'm lying, he can issue an official statement.
අග්‍රාමාත්‍යතුමාට පුළුවන් වහා ප්‍රකාශයක් නිකුත් කරන්න.
However, speaking at a media briefing today, the United National Party defended the government's take of the currency depreciation as a global phenomenon.
The depreciation of the currency is because of the current situation of our world market. I have many examples. The Indian currency depreciated by 12% against the dollar. Pakistan depreciated by 17% against the dollar. The currency of the UAE has depreciated by 4% against the pound. Even Russia, for which Putin has showed exemplary leadership, depreciated by 18% against the US dollar. However, our currency has depreciated by 7%. We don't expect the currency to weaken any more than 9%, which means our currency is in a strong position.
Oil futures rose more than 1% today on signs that OPEC would not be prepared to raise output to address shrinking supplies from Iran, and as Saudi Arabia signaled an informal target near current levels. Brent crude LCO-CI futures rose $1.08 or 1.4% to $79.13 a barrel. Meanwhile, U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude CLCI futures gained $1.03 to $69.94 a barrel at 1.5% gain. However, the market was tempered by an escalation in the China-US trade war that has clouded the outlook for crude demand from the world's top oil consumers. We'll bring you more on that in our international news segment.
The pumping unit pushes the rod up and down.
And here at home, the oil share price index crashed to below 6,000 points, closing at 5,971.21 for a second time in 3 years since the 8th of January in 2015. The oil share price index last crashed below 6,000 points on the 22nd of March in 2017, almost 18 months ago. The daily turnover was 881.2 million rupees today, which is over this year's daily average of 797.5 million rupees. We have more details on the other side.
The Colombo Stock Exchange All Share Price Index first reached a historic 6,000 points on the 9th of September in 2010, following 1 year of the end of the almost 30 years of civil conflict in the country. The All Share Price Index today crashed to below 6,000 points, closing at 5,971.21 points for a second time in 3 years since 8 January 2015. We now have Viruni Pereira from First Capital Holdings for more details.
Today, Boost continued to be in red for the third consecutive session, losing 57 points and reached the new year-to-date low, led by heavy price decline in big cap, John Keells and distilleries. The SPI recorded a declining trend throughout the day, reaching an intraday low of 5,967 and closing the day at 5,971, breaking the key psychological support level of 6,000. Turnover and volume both improved compared to the previous day, while 24% of the turnover derived from parcel trades.
China has hit back at President Donald Trump by imposing new trade tariffs on $60 billion of American goods. It comes after the US slapped duties on $200 billion worth of Chinese imports on Monday, escalating its trade war with Beijing. China is expected to target American goods such as liquefied natural gas, which are produced in states loyal to the US president.
The Chinese Commerce Ministry said it would impose its tariff from 24th September, the day the US duties come into effect, but at lower rates than previously expected. The tariff rates will be levied at 5% and 10% instead of the previously proposed rates of 5%, 10%, 20% and 25%. By contrast, the US duties will apply to almost 6,000 items, making them the biggest round of trade tariffs yet from Washington. They will affect handbags, rice and textiles, although some items such as smartwatches and high chairs have been exempted. They will start at 10% and increase to 25% from the start of next year unless the two countries agree a deal. On Monday, Trump said the latest round of tariffs was in response to China's unfair trade practices.
Last night's Emmy Awards had its fair share of unexpected moments, emotional reactions and impassioned speeches, and some revelations about the destiny of the Game of Thrones. Needless to say, it was another year filled with the glitz and glamour television's biggest night could offer.
Please welcome your hosts.
Weekend Update hosts Michael Che and Colin Jost took their hosting chops to the Emmys with an opening monologue that referenced #MeToo, racism and the current political climate.
You know, it is an honor to be here sharing this night with the many, many talented and creative people in Hollywood who haven't been caught yet.
That's right.
But let's have fun tonight.
Let's start giving out some trophies.
Yes.
You guys excited?
We're all here.
The world through the magic of TV. We solved it. We solved it. We solved it.
Saturday Night Live took home the award for Outstanding Variety Sketch Series at the 70th Emmy.
Saturday Night Live.
Last Week Tonight with John Oliver won Outstanding Variety Talk Series. The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel won the top comedy prize at the Emmy Awards on a night of upsets for the highest honor in television. The Amazon show about a 1950s housewife who turns to stand-up comedy took home the Emmy for Best Comedy Series. Mrs. Maisel also won 4 other awards, including a Best Actress for Rachel Brosnahan.
We've got one more award to go. The Emmy for
Game of Thrones picked up Best Drama Series again after a year off in 2017 when it wasn't eligible.
Game of Thrones.
An unscripted live drama unfolded on the stage of the Emmy Awards when Glenn Weiss, who had just received an Emmy, proposed to his girlfriend Jan Svensson, who was seated in the audience.
Jan, you are the sunshine in my life. And Mom was right, don't ever let go of your sunshine. You wonder why I don't like to call you my girlfriend? Because I want to call you my wife. Will you marry me?
Thank you.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.
On to your weather forecast now for the next 24 hours. Fairly strong winds of up to 50 kilometers per hour can be expected over the island, particularly in the central, northwestern, north central and southern provinces. Some wet weather is forecast for provinces of the central and Sabaragamu provinces and in the Galle and Mathura district. Fairly rainfall of about 50 kilometers can be expected at some places in the central and Sabaragamu provinces. We now take a look at your city-by-city weather forecast for the next 24 hours. That's it from Other Derana First at 9 for tonight. But before we leave you, we'd like to take you to the gold carpet of the Emmy Awards. Bucking the heat, the stars walked a carpet that was coloured gold instead of the traditional red to celebrate the Emmys' 70th anniversary. We hope you enjoy these visuals. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.